Hello. We are back. And some news just dropped a couple of minutes ago. It looks like Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse has moved up a week. I think that's what the article said. Variety. Let's go over here and check it out. Add to stage. Yeah. So it looks like this movie is going to get its dues a little earlier. I liked all of the Spider-Verse movies. The first two were really, really good. It takes a long time to make these movies, which is totally fine. I mean, everybody should stop pushing stuff out without having the best quality as far as like the animation, or even if it's a movie, just this rush, pick a release date, get the next one out, go into production, get the next one out. I like that these films are like wine. They kind of marinate, they take their time. This one, I think, it's got different directors. They got rid of those two knuckleheads. And, I guess this will be the final one, Beyond the Spider-Verse. So it's going to drop on right around Father's Day and Juneteenth, which I think is great. That's fantastic. And it's going to be right on in there with How to Train Your Dragon 2 and Disney and all that other kind of stuff. But yeah, I like these films. My daughter likes these films. She loves Ghost Spider. I mean, she's a big Spider-Man fan altogether. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be really good. And yeah, how's everybody's week been? I guess I would say that. I don't want to get into anything crazy, but I just heard, and let's get this out of here. I just heard that there is new legislation brought up in Congress to put Charlie Kirk on a coin. Yeah, that's right. I'm the way they've just gone nuts with this thing has just blown my mind. I've never seen a funeral before with fireworks and explosions and sparkles and all. I mean, just I don't know, man. Just a little out there for me, But I'm glad I wasn't picked up in the rapture the other day. I think Billy Joel has a really good song, "Only the Good Die Young," and he says, "I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints. The sinners have much more fun." I like that too. I think I would much rather, uh, hang out with people that aren't perfect than to go through life with all the rest of them, all holier than now. Jimmy Kimmel, his return. I watched it. I watched the opening monologue, the 28-minute monologue, on YouTube because it's not airing in my state. I don't know if it's Sinclair or Nexstar, one of them, but I think it's pretty cool. I guess just for network television alone, he receives over 6 million tuned in. I think it was something insane as far as Netflix goes, for how many millions of people tuned in. I think there was about 1 million people when I had tuned into the show and was streaming, and I was watching watching it go, like the ticker as the thing was streaming. And I liked his monologue. I thought it was really good. I thought it was very nice. So 16 million people watched it on YouTube. 6.3 million people watched it, on network television. So you're talking about, and all the other platforms, probably 20 million people tuned in. And that's probably one of the biggest crowds that Jimmy Kimmel's got in a long time. But you know what? It just goes to show you when people pull together and come together, they can actually, make a difference. I just wish people would find a way to do it for other things. Like, you saw what they did with Target. They kind of boycotted Target when they got rid of the DEI. And then that's crushed them financially. They have been shitting the bricks since that boycott's been in effect, and the boycott is still in effect. I think they almost have gotten rid of one of their CEOs, or they're freaking out that they might have to get rid of a CEO because they can't seem to pull together. They can't seem to get that audience back. But there's one way to do it. You just reinstall DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And people forget inclusion doesn't, that means women, that means veterans, that means handicapped people, people with disabilities. It's not just black and white. Like I think that's the whole thing with DEI that people don't understand. It's diversity, equity, meaning, you pay somebody the same amount you would have paid somebody else, giving the Asian guy less money than the white guy, or whatever, or giving the woman less money than the white. If it's the same job, at Target, they should all make the same rate, I don't know. It is what it is. But if we could all come together as a people, like they did for Target and did the boycott, and they did for, unsubscribing from Disney Plus and Hulu, there's no reason why we can't all come together and go, fuck you to the insurance companies, and everyone just stop paying premiums. At least all the healthy people just stop paying premiums for 1 month and watch the healthcare system cripple all these insurance companies. And then they'd have to cut the rates. They'd have to bring down the premiums because they're really ripping everybody off. These CEOs are making, $20 million a pop. They're totally ripping people off. The only way they accumulate that kind of wealth is to deny everything for everyone as much as you can. That's the only way. That's how you do it. You deny everything, don't approve things, take the longest time to pay back bills, and that's, if we could figure out how to squeeze them. And then the grocery stores, we should be I saw in my area, there's a regional store, which is the low end regional store. It's called Food Lion. And there were people, two steaks, $84. It's totally uncalled for. All of it is uncalled for. How much money these corporations are making and literally robbing people. So, but enough about that. Earlier today, last week, I got my shingles shot because I turned 50 in April, and got my booster shot last week. It rocked me for a couple of days, but I was back today at my doctor's office, and I got the COVID vaccine and I got the flu shot, both shoulders, one shoulder here, one shoulder here. So I just took like 4 ibuprofen and I took some Tylenol, acetaminophen. I've been saying acetaminophen for the better part of my life. And I took those because I know about 3-4 in the morning, this stuff might rock me a little bit, but I'm hoping it's not. The last time I did both shots, it wasn't that bad at all. But, I have to do what I have to do to take care of my family. And so don't judge. But let's circle back to Spider-Man, its date. If they're confident in the movie at this point, because we know that Sony has done a really good job with the Spider-Verse film. So the fact that they're going to up the schedule for 1 week, release the movie a little bit ahead of time, land right there in that sweet spot where you've got, Juneteenth and you've got Father's Day. It's going to be great. The themes about the Spider-Verse too is, it's got the fathers, the cop, and then him, Miles Morales and all that. And I hope they bring back everyone in this movie too that was in the last one. And I think they almost kind of set it up. If I remember the last film, they set it up with some sort of like tie-in to that bad guy. He wasn't a bad guy, but he was like the Spider-Verse, the Spider-Man in that verse. But I don't know. There was some sort of twist thing at the end. I have to go back and revisit that, but I've only watched it once. But my daughter, she watched them, but they're very chaotic, visually, which is fine. I remember the first time I saw Encanto, there was so much going on in that movie that I got nauseous anytime there was just like all sorts of stuff going on within the songs because there was just so much. It was so busy. But then after a couple of watches, with my daughter, I got used to it. But there's something about visually having like just so much being thrown at you at one time. It's almost like an overload. But I like Encanto is one of my favorite Disney movies. We were just talking about, but the Spider-Verse movie I think is going to be really good. I'm glad they've moved it up. I think that's pretty cool. And then I was reading about one of the other things that's been going on besides. See, that's the problem. It's like everything's so intertwined now. It's really hard to focus on one or two things because everything's just like so tied together. I saw that they're doing a cliffhanger reboot. I don't know if Stallone has anything to do with it. It is going to be starring Pierce Brosnan and Lily James, which I worked with Lily James on a movie. She's was really cool, so kind of excited to see her in anything. And so that might be a good movie. I love the original Cliffhanger. I don't know if they've ever made a sequel to Cliffhanger. I don't think so. This might be like if it's a reboot, then it's not a sequel at all. I see Blumhouse is gathering up new fresh blood as far as their writers go. They're doing like screenwriting fellowships with up and coming horror writers, which I think is cool. Let's get some new blood in there, maybe some new ideas. They've had one or two flops here and there. Blumhouse. I did a Blumhouse movie. I worked on a movie called Jezebel. I was in the accounting department, and I met Jason Blum, and great guy. Their concepts to do low budget movies. If I remember correctly, Jezebel had a $4 million budget, and it did well. It did not flop at the box office because it did not have a high ceiling to climb before it broke even. And see, that was like the formula that Blumhouse has been using for so long, and they've kind of gotten away from that, and they got to pull back the reins. So getting a whole bunch of new writers in these writer fellowships and getting them involved and coming up with new fresh material, I think is good, because we got, you can only reboot horror franchises so many times. I'm kind of done seeing a lot of them. For years I was a big horror guy, and especially when I was a teenager. I'm talking like Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Texas Chainsaw, all those movies that came out in the 80s, and then as they trickled into the 90s, and then I worked on the reboot of Halloween in 2018, which was a lot of fun. We shot that movie in Charleston, South Carolina, and so it was really cool being a horror film for all those years that like, hey, I get to work on one of my favorite franchises of all time. So that was pretty cool. But you get bored with them, like how many times. I know they've got a new TV series for Friday the 13th. It's called Crystal Lake. I saw a preview for it, but like nothing's making me want to watch it, because like for me it seems like everything's already been done, right? I mean, at this point, like I don't know how you shake that tree and have something else new come out of it. I don't know how you're going to do it. It's just one of those things that I just can't wrap my head around. How you can just you beat that horse till it's dead, milk that cow for all it's worth. Millie Bobby Brown, let's like post Stranger Things, is going to play Olympian Carrie Strug. Is a gymnast, and so they're doing like this a biopic on her, which I think is cool. She actually looks like the gymnast, but I'm curious if she's going to have to learn all that stuff, or are they going to use body doubles for everything? Because that's something like you either are born a gymnast or you've been training for years and years and years. You can't really fake that. Like Sydney Sweeney's doing that boxing movie that was actually shot about 5 hours from my house over in near Charlotte, North Carolina. And you can fake the boxing stuff. You can train and fake but this gymnast, like, on a horse, the way they flip around and flip around, and then all like that's hard. So I don't know, but the movie's called Perfect. And so, yeah, Millie Bobby Brown's to play the Olympian Carrie Strug. And it looks like Netflix is circling the project to try to scoop it up, which I think is pretty cool. I love the fact that Stephen King is constantly allowing people to adapt his short stories. There's a new Stephen King novella called Rat, which is getting the movie adaptation from The Witch and The Lighthouse producer. Isaac Esban is going to be the director. So that should be pretty interesting. The thing about Stephen King is at least he doesn't tread on the same stuff. Like this other movie that's out now, The Long Walk. I think that's what it's called. Mark Hamill's in that thing. All those people are in a contest to get $1 million or whatever it is, and they got to be the last one standing on this long walk, and they're all getting killed as soon as they stop walking and fall down and get hurt. And I haven't seen the movie yet, but the trailer looks really good. So I'm really excited about that because Stephen King, I worked on 3 seasons of Under the Dome. I got to meet Stephen King on the pilot episode. He came out, he shot us. He was in, I think it was like a hospital scene, a little cameo. That's the thing about, Stephen King. He likes to put himself in all his projects and as cameos, which is pretty cool. I would, put myself in everything too. And so it'll be very interesting, interesting to see how this movie turns out. But I'm always excited for new Stephen King projects. And it looks like the Jim Henson Company might be strapped for a little bit of money. They're doing an auction. They're going to be auctioning off historic puppets from Fraggle Rock, Labyrinth, and The Dark Crystal to mark the 70th anniversary of Jim Henson Studios, the company. And I think that's great. I think I'm going to follow this one. I wonder if they're doing it through the prop store because I'd really like to follow some of these things. Because I think, we just finished watching The Dark Crystal the other day with my daughter. She loves Labyrinth. She sings all the David Bowie songs, and really loves that stuff. And what's crazy is she's like going to be 6 years old. And, that stuff came out when I was a kid. And so for her to fall in love with these things, it just shows that there's so much love for these properties that Jim Henson and Fraggle Rock. Who doesn't like Fraggle Rock? I haven't introduced my daughter to Fraggle Rock yet, but I think I will. But the cool part about it is, I'm looking at, some of the figures that they're coming up with here. They're thinking a full body Gelfling might get anywhere from 15 to 25,000 in the auction. I don't think that's right. I think that thing's going to go for way, and that's what I mean by I got to figure out if it's the prop store who's going to be putting on this auction, because it'll be really cool to see how much these things go for, because they're not going to go for these low numbers. They've got swords and things like that from like the Skeksis chair that they sat in is going 4,000 to 6,000. They think they can get it. A dagger for 3,000. Yeah, I mean and that's the thing. Like, if you go to any special effects house, whether it be, Jim Henson's or Weta, they got so much stuff laying around. And recently, I've been very proud. It's probably the only thing I've been proud of for Warner Brothers recently is that they've started doing things like on Batman Day, they preserve all of this. Years ago, they used to just throw everything away. They would throw everything away on films. And now if they know it's going to be a hit, or if it's something like Batman, they save the costumes, they restore the costumes, they'll send them out, let effects artists touch them up, do casts and molds of things. You always see the Batmobiles on display, like they keep them tuned up and ready to go and ready to drive. And that's the thing. There are collectors out there. There was a great documentary that my wife and I watched the other day. I think it was on Hulu, and it was all about the theft in the 90s of the one of the last 4 pairs of ruby slippers, from the original Wizard of Oz. And so, we're watching this thing and it was amazing. And then they thought that they would go for, $20,000 at auction when they finally found the shoes again and returned them to the original owner. And then he put them up at an auction, and it ended up going for $28 million for the ruby slippers. And so that's mind blowing. Hey, Anthony, I see you in here. Hey, Tony, what's up? Tanner, hey, buddy. And Lion fan, did you guys win the other day? I wasn't sure. The finest 49ers are doing pretty good this year without Brock Purdy. Yeah, I don't know how much longer that's going to last. I think the quarterback that replaced Brock, I think he hurt himself too. So I don't know if we're on to our third string, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. They said 3 to 5 weeks for Brock. He could return. But I don't know. I've only caught like 2 games this year because the games that I want to watch aren't in my region, cause I'm on the East Coast. So I didn't get the 49ers game. I think the next week's game is a Thursday night. 49ers are playing. I've got Amazon Prime, so I'll be able to stream that. I think that's the thing that bothers me the most about the NFL now is like you literally have to have Netflix because there's several games on Netflix this year. You have to have Amazon Prime for the Thursday night games. You have to have ESPN for Monday night. And then on the weekend, it's either CBS or it's CBS, NBC, or Fox. But like the Panthers, because I live in North Carolina, if the Panthers are playing, and this last game they won 33 to 0 or something, and so now they're on fire again. I'm not a Panthers fan. I'm a 49ers fan. But if the Panthers game is playing, I can't see any of my stuff on the West Coast, and I get so tired, absolutely tired of chasing all the NFL games on all these platforms. It's driving me crazy. Yes, we won. So happy we put here. Let's do this. Yes, we won. So happy to pull it off against Baltimore on the road. Contain Lamar Jackson all day. Oh, wait, that was a really high scoring game on both sides, wasn't it? I remember seeing that. Now it's all coming back to me. Yeah, and when I watch the highlights, Lamar Jackson's really good too, man. I wouldn't say he's underrated. I just feel like they haven't been able to close the deal on their games, but he's a hell of a quarterback. But yeah, the Lions, yeah, that was a high scoring game. What was it, like 48-48 or something? Let me see what that was. What was it? It's the Ravens. 38-30. Yeah, I knew it was something like that. And they got by a touchdown. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Well, I hope everybody at Detroit stays healthy, and they can keep on going. That'd be nice. That's the thing. Like, I'm a 49er fan. So, and I grew up, watching the 49ers play. My first game was watching them in the Super Bowl. Joe Montana throwing a Dwight Clark, making the play. And so like I've watched 5 Super Bowls with the 49ers, winning all 5 Super Bowls, 3 with Montana, 2 with Steve Young. And then I watched Colin Kaepernick get to the Super Bowl. I've watched Brock Purdy get to anyway, my point is I kind of cheer for a lot of other teams just because, like I feel like all my instrumental years as a kid and a teenager and everything, I watched the 49ers they were just dynasty crushing it. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Steve Young, like that, like it's so hard to replicate that I'm like, if they get knocked out of the playoffs or something like Brock Purdy gets hurt, or if somebody gets hurt and they're knocked out, I'm like, well, that's okay. I got 5 Super Bowls and two extra Super Bowl appearances. It's like being 7 times to the Super Bowl. So it's like, I don't complain. I'm not an NFL complainer. I know other people are hardcore. I think the Lions, though, have they even been to the Super Bowl? I feel so bad. Yeah. So, okay. So what is it? What do you say? You have no idea how much a Lions Super Bowl would mean to me. I've seen so much losing in my lifetime. My wife is an Eagles fan, so she didn't get her first Super Bowl in her lifetime until, and she's 47 now, but it was a couple years ago when they finally won. So it's kind of neat to be there to watch her and her family, because they all had the Eagles gear on and the whole 9 yards. And I pulled for them because they were in it, and my team wasn't in it. And so, it's one of those things. At least I don't think my team was in it. Was my team in it? Was the 49ers? Did they play them in the Super Bowl? No, it was the Eagles that knocked out Brock Purdy's arm. But was that the NFC Championship game? Oh, dude, my brain. I need more coffee. I hear you. I'm a Pittsburgh fan. All right, let's get Tony up here. I hear you. I'm a Pittsburgh fan myself, and that's owing it to my family being in from here. Oh, so you're from up there, Pittsburgh. Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of Aaron Rodgers, but I do like your coach. What's his name? What's your coach's name? It's slipping my mind. I see him in my head. But yeah, Tony, drop your coaches in, because I like your coach. I really think he needs to get his win. Not a fan of Aaron Rodgers at all. I thought he would really retire after that bad season with the Jets, but it looks like he's grooving. So we'll see how well you guys do this year. Let me see. I remember we choked against you guys in the 2023 NFC Championship game. We blew like a 20-point lead in the second half of the game. Yeah. No, I remember. But again, I was sweating Detroit all year because you guys had one of the best records in the NFL. And, that year, we had a light schedule, but I was freaking out about Detroit all year, because I was like, dude, these guys are no joke. So let's see how well everybody does this year. Be pretty cool, man. I'm excited about that. I like, but again, like chasing down all the games everywhere, it's getting to be too much, man. It's like they've got everybody by the balls. So like, I didn't get to watch the Niners game, and my wife didn't get to watch the Eagles game this past weekend. We had to watch highlights, and that sucks, because seeing the highlight of the Eagles blocking the field goal, and then that lineman picking it up and running all the way down and scoring to win the game as the clock ran out, like that was insane, because but we didn't get to see it in real time. That sucks. That's this whole thing sucks. But this is an interesting. Leonardo DiCaprio recalls agent thought his name was too ethnic and gave him a stage name. I think that's funny. I wonder what the stage name was. They gave him a new name, Lenny Williams. That was the stage name they gave him. I was 12 or 13. Lenny Williams. We took the middle name that we made it, Leo, and then made Lenny. And oh God, that's terrible. Now, when I was acting for a while, I went by a different name. So my name's Sean O'Rourke, and I went by Patrick. My middle name's Patrick, and I went by Patrick Rourke. I dropped the O on my last name. I did that for quite a few years. And then I ended up just going back to Sean Patrick O'Rourke and then just embracing all my Irish. But I was Patrick Rourke because, the thought process was, the actor Mickey Rourke spells his last name the same way. And the thought process was, oh, well, here's another Rourke. Because at the time when I had changed my name, acting wise, Mickey Rourke was famous back then, like during his 9.5 weeks, run where he was in everything, Harley Davidson and Marlboro Man, all that kind of stuff. And so I had changed my name briefly. So I get that. A lot of actors change their names. I remember hearing the whole story recently when I watched that 2-part documentary with Charlie Sheen about the not having the Estevez name Martin Sheen changed his name. Charlie Sheen took on the dad's name, but they were all Estevez, you know. And so it's a good story. If you haven't heard that story about Estevez, it's a good story. Because then Martin Sheen, I think when he had his first movie and it was up on the marquee and he invited his dad out to watch him on the big screen and it said Charlie Sheen and it didn't say Carlos Estevez, his dad was like heartbroken. So that's why Emilio sticks with the name Emilio Estevez and didn't change it to a Sheen. Then I thought that was pretty cool. It's because he was honoring his grandfather. Neat stuff. Neat stuff when you hear it. What else do we have? What else is going on in this world? It's crazy, man. Like you're trying to focus on. I haven't watched any of the Alien Earth. Okay, I was waiting for all the episodes to completely drop, so that I could kind of binge watch it all. And then all I keep hearing is they didn't stick the landing. That the final episode is awful. The last 2 episodes I heard were awful. And that they did really well for a while, and then it just started imploding as far as the writing and everything goes. And that's a shame because, you know, the Alien franchise is great. I've always been a fan of the Alien films. Absolutely, you know, Aliens, the second one, directed by James Cameron, holds a special place in my heart. And Alien 3, believe it or not, I love Alien 3. I don't know why that movie gets so much crap. But you know, it's good. And even the director's cut or the Criterion edition where they added the extra scenes, but they didn't finish them. So like the scenes that are in there, you know, they're not color corrected, that they dropped in the movie. So you kind of get pulled out of it. And there's like grain and stuff on and cuts in the film because they shot it in 35 back then. So the stuff that they inserted doesn't match the rest of the actual finished polished film. But it gives you an idea of what David Fincher was really going for. And I just love even the theatrical version I like of Alien 3. I like that it went back to basics and it went back to like one alien fighting a bunch of people. And then when you put them in a prison with really no weapons and they're having to fight it and outthink it, that was good. And I didn't mind Sigourney Weaver, you know, dying at the end. Spoiler alert. Superman dropped on HBO Max and you haven't bothered to watch it. I mean, I don't blame you. It sucks. It sucks. I don't want to talk. You're going to trigger me, man. I don't want to talk about James Gunn and his orgies and all that kind of stuff. Guy's crazy. I'm definitely I'm tapping out on that, I think. And I'll tell you what, I watched the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer and I wasn't impressed. You know, and I almost feel like because of what was going on with Jimmy Kimmel and everybody, Disney Plus was hemorrhaging subscribers because, you know, they lost something like $4 billion in, you know, stock, you know, value in 48 hours when this whole thing with Jimmy Kimmel played out. So I felt like they were like, hey, we need to drop a trailer, even though it's like a year out, of The Mandalorian. And most of it was kind of like bits and pieces that were already shown at Star Wars Celebration. So it wasn't really like anything new. It was just different angles and versions of things that had already been shown at Star Wars Celebration. But I was underwhelmed. I really was. And, you know, at 50 years old, I saw the original Empire Strikes Back in the theater when I was a kid in 1981. I saw Return of the Jedi in 83. You know, obviously I was 2 years old when A New Hope came out, but subsequently I've seen every film. And then when they re-released in the 90s, all the special editions, finally got to see the original Star Wars on the big screen. And so I've been a Star Wars fan my whole life. I love Star Wars. And I just didn't feel anything. And I don't know whether it's because the last season of The Mandalorian was kind of like, it really just started to fall apart, I felt. I felt like they were on such a high at the end of season 2 with the reveal of Luke, but everything just got muddied and they just kept cranking out shows. And I'm watching that trailer and I'm going, okay. It just didn't do anything for me. You know, when the original Force Awakens trailer came out, that trailer still, if you put it on now, my hair will stand up on my arms every time. J.J. Abrams crushed that trailer. They crushed that trailer. And why they couldn't do something like that, versus going for the laughs and the, Grogu using the Force to bring the bowl of food over to him and Sigourney Weaver putting her hand on it and stopping it. It's just like, come on, man. Like, just, I don't know. I just don't have a lot of high hopes for Star Wars these days. What do you got here? After the sequel trilogy, I knew it would take them at least 10 years to get another solidified plan for their universe. I think the Starfighter movie with Ryan Gosling, they hope to make that a trilogy. I've seen the 2 pictures they've put out of that. Didn't make me get excited either, unfortunately. And I like Ryan. I like him. He doesn't really do bad movies. I haven't seen him do a bad movie. But it didn't blow my socks off, the 2 images they put out. It's like, there's one thing in the Grogu and Mandalorian trailer that I did think was cool. There was this bounty hunter that was in Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace, and he really was like a puppet holding a staff with a weird shaped head. He looked like a cobra, like a hooded cobra, and he was up against the wall. And if you watch like the making of the saga, behind the scenes stuff from the 1980s that came out on Return of the Jedi, he literally was like just a prop up against a wall with a pole attaching him to his back. He wasn't, and they would move him or whatever but he was just always in the background. And then they show him that same type of creature coming up out of the water, and he's got these sharp razor teeth. And I was like, oh, that's that thing from Return of the Jedi. So again, like, I think the thing about Filoni and the thing about Favreau is they've got their hand on the pulse of this thing. I just don't. And look, Favreau's put out nothing but great stuff. Like, that guy's a great director, great producer. Like, I love the movie Chef, like they're just good stuff, so if it needs to be in anyone's hands, it's good to be in their hands, because they kind of are still cultivating the George Lucas type stuff. I think they're in the sweet spot right now. They keep making movies in this sweet spot. Now, I know they're going to go, 10,000 years in reverse, and they're going to go into the future and all, but this is the world that everyone knows. The Empire Strikes Back, the Return of the Jedi. This is the era that everyone knows, and they can relate to the machines, the outfits, the costumes, the stormtrooper, the classic stormtrooper suits. And I think they just got to focus on that, Zeb was in it from Star Wars Rebels. I know you said Filoni loves reusing his cartoon characters into live action. Listen, I'm trying to tell you guys, I've been telling people, I've been saying this for the better part, when they originally announced Taika Waititi was going to be making a Star Wars film, it's Star Wars Rebels. Okay. That's the live action movie they've been waiting on from him, but they wouldn't let him do it because Filoni wanted to introduce these characters in the TV shows ahead of time. So you got Ahsoka, you've got, you've got the droid, the orange R2 unit, whatever his name is. I don't watch a lot of the Rebels, but you've introduced the kid in Ahsoka, that they found on that planet. Sabin, they're introducing all of them, and even Zeb, who had that one cameo at the end of was it The Mandalorian? Or no, it was Ahsoka. I can't remember. In the cantina. He was in the cantina. No, it was The Mandalorian. They had him kind of just leaning up against the bar in The Mandalorian. And I'm telling you, Taika Waititi's movie is live action Star Wars Rebels, and Dave Filoni wanted to introduce these characters slowly throughout all the multiple projects, knowing they're going to tie them all together. And that's what Taika's been waiting to shoot his movie. The script's probably already done. They're probably just waiting. And, once The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out and they've got Zeb in it, and Zeb's going to be kicking butt and everyone's going to get excited. And then when they finally announce Taika Waititi's movie is Star Wars Rebels, people are going to go nuts. And if you think about it, Taika Waititi is the perfect director to handle the campy camaraderie between all these characters. Almost like, I hate to say it, James Gunn was with the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is Star Wars's version of Guardians of the Galaxy. And Taika Waititi is the perfect foil to direct and write this thing. So I'm telling you, that's what's happening. And I think people need to get ready for that. Sean, it's Luke Nimchek. Hey, what's up, buddy? How's it going, man? Haven't seen you seen the new Wonder Woman trailer. It's AI or is it real? I don't think they've put out a new Wonder. They haven't even cast a new Wonder Woman. I also saw something you were in, man. You do something really good at. What did you see that I was in? What did you see that I was in? Maybe it was the short film that I just did a short film, acted in a short film, which was really good. But it's good hearing from you, man. I appreciate it. The Wonder Woman trailer, it's got to be AI because I don't think they've cast the actress yet who's playing Wonder Woman, unless it's the prequel series. It was a Western. Is that the prequel series they're doing for HBO Max? Could be. I don't know. I haven't paid attention. I'm tapped out on the DCU stuff. I think all of it's awful. I think Peacemaker's awful. I think Superman was awful. I'm not looking forward to Supergirl. Not a drunk Supergirl, cursing and calling Superman a bitch. Like, I'm not into it. I'm not into what James Gunn's throwing out there. I think I've been spoiled. I love the Christopher Nolan Batman films. Oh my God. I feel like that was the pinnacle of Batman. I know people love Robert Pattinson's Batman, but that thing was so slow. It took forever. I nodded off in the theater watching that movie. I'm not feeling any of that stuff. I didn't watch The Penguin. I'm just not feeling any of it. Like the Elseworld stuff and just the goofy third grade potty humor shit jokes, that Gunn puts out. You know what I did see? I'll say this. Just the other day, I came across the outtake reel for Superman. This was the James Gunn Superman. They had the outtake reel was going viral. It's all around. You can probably see it anywhere. And I'm watching it, and it was better than the movie. The outtake reel, I kid you not, for me personally, was better than the movie because the reactions from the goofiness and the stuff and the screwing up the lines and cracking and smiling in between takes and not being able to hold the composure, that was more entertaining and felt more real than the forced, crappy, spoon-feeding exposition dialogue of that movie. It was awful. So yeah. I hear you. Christopher Reeve is still my Superman too as well. And I do like Henry Cavill's Superman. I felt like what happened to him is what happened to Brandon Routh. They were good Superman, but they didn't have the greatest scripts, and then same thing with the James Gunn. This was not a good script. And so, like, when are we going to get a good script? They had a good script with the Richard Donner films, the two films that he did, Superman 2. Then they fell off a cliff. Superman 3 was awful. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, was awful. Superman Returns was, Lex Luthor was just another real estate scam. It's just, they just can't seem to figure Superman out. And instead of trying to figure out Superman, they're just James Gunn's like, oh, we're just going to forget all the origin stuff and we're just going to be goofy with it and bring in the dog. And oh God, it's awful stuff. Let's see, what do we got here? I don't think I've ever asked you, did you watch the new Fantastic Four movie? What were your thoughts on it? I thought it was just okay to me, but I did like it better than the Superman movie for sure. I watched the film. I saw it in the theater, Fantastic Four, and I thought it was okay. I thought Thunderbolts was better than Fantastic Four. And then I would say Captain America, Brave New World would be out of the three Marvel films that came out this year. I think it's going to rank Thunderbolts, Captain America, and then Fantastic Four. I like the retro look of Fantastic Four. But but it just felt very boring. It was just boring. I thought the movie was boring. Yeah, I think the pacing could have been better, and then the climactic ending was so quick. Like, we wasted all this time on these other things for the first and second act, and then they just kind of like, oh, let's just wrap it up in the third act and be done with it. And it was just, I was like, really? I like that it had a decently short runtime. I don't like 3-hour superhero films unless it's like Avengers Endgame. It's like a buildup of 30 movies, and then okay, now this is the shit's hitting the fan. But a nice tight 2-hour type film is fine with me. 2 hours 12 minutes, whatever. But I guess for me, like, I liked Harrison Ford as Red Hulk, so and Anthony Mackie. I did a movie with Anthony Mackie, so I love him. So, like, for me, that made that movie stand out to me more than Fantastic Four. And Thunderbolts was just a damn good movie. What a good script. The action was good, and it was more street level. You know, you had your one character that was the superhero guy flying around, whatever his name was, not I wanted to say Ultraman, but not Ultraman. Whatever the character was in Thunderbolts, you had him. He was interesting because he was like bipolar, schizophrenic. They couldn't figure out his place in the world and all this other kind of stuff. And he's created in a lab, whatever that is. And so for me, it was just a more interesting story. The characters were already fleshed out in other movies a little bit, and it was nice to see, the bad Captain America, Kurt Russell's son, in there and kind of becoming the anti-hero of that film, almost like, it was good. It was good. So, but Fantastic Four wasn't. I like the retro look of Fantastic Four, but the movie just didn't do anything for me. They needed the Superman music for Henry Cavill. I agree, Luke. I agree 100%. I would have liked, but not a bastardized version of what they did with the Gun movie. They really they took John Williams' score and they kind of shit on it, and they should have just used John Williams' score. And there's some trailers and stuff out there, some fan-made stuff out on YouTube where they actually use the proper John Williams score with David Cornsweet, and it just comes across better than whatever the guitar bullshit they did using just the 3 notes of the John Williams score instead of using the whole damn thing. I think that was a screw up. But I don't know if, like, I like Hans Zimmer, but I don't know if the tone of Man of Steel would have worked with the John Williams score. I don't know. I would have preferred it though. All right, let's see what's going on here. How soon can we hear about the buyers who are interested in Warner Brothers? Again, I think, like, as of today, there's still no official bid from Paramount. Skydance, they have not put in their official bid, so it's going to take months, I think. And Netflix too. They're all trying to figure out what the value is. So I'm sure they've got attorneys on the phone going back and forth, trying to figure out all this kind of stuff, what the library's worth, what individual IPs are worth, what the real estate's worth, because, Warner Brothers has a studio complex in Los Angeles. So it's not just like you got to buy the whole studio. There's land deals. There's like all sorts of shit that has to be worked out. So I don't know. I wouldn't hold my breath, but, I was really hoping that Universal Studios would get in the mix because, they really want, their own, like Disney has their Marvel stuff over, at Disney World. They really want like their own superhero shit over at Epic Universe. But here's the thing, it's NBC Universal. So, the thing that made the Skydance merger with Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount, but the Paramount and Skydance, that went through, and they gave $15 million to Trump's presidential library, and they canceled the Colbert Show to get that done. Warner Brothers, Zaslav is a friend of Trump's, a big Trump supporter, so I assume that he will cave on things too, but they don't have anything that's pissing Trump off. Where NBC Universal still has Seth Meyers and what's his name? on the Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon, and Trump just said in a tweet the other day on Truth Social that NBC needs to get with the program like they're doing with Colbert and like what he thought they were doing with Kimmel, and he said you need to get rid of those guys too. So if Universal wants to buy Warner Brothers and they do a merger, the FCC, or the regulators that will oversee the merger and make sure that they don't become a monopoly, they're going to have to pay payola to Trump, whether they shit can Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers to make that deal work. And I just don't think Universal wants to fuck with that right now. I think they like what they've got, and I don't think they want to do it, but they do want their own superheroes. So maybe if Warner Brothers ends up piecemealing out and the IP of DC is available, and they can just buy or license the DC stuff, like Sony licensed Spider-Man for Islands of Adventure for Universal, so they have a Spider-Man ride over there. If they can do something like that, I could see the IP of the DC stuff going to live somewhere else. Because I think like even Universal has the Hulk, that's why he's always on loan, and that's why he hasn't had a standalone movie, because Universal has the Hulk shit. It's like, they screwed up with Marvel back in the 70s and 80s, kind of breaking up shit. And yeah, so, oh yeah, Luke, yeah, it was Sentry. I see that right now. So I don't know. And I've got a friend who works at Netflix. He's a film finance manager, and I've asked him several times, does Netflix want the Snyderverse? Does Netflix want that? And he says nobody's talking about it at Netflix. So, and this is a guy that's, literally in the offices. So I don't want to give out his name because he's a good friend of mine, but it's just, I ask him every now and again, are you hearing anything? And he would tell me the truth. And he says, nah, dude, they're not. So I don't know. And I don't know whether with Netflix, because the Rebel Moon didn't do very well for Zack Snyder, I don't think there's going to be any Snyderverse resurgence at Netflix or anything like that. I think if anything, they're just going to keep moving forward with the crap they have, but bring in better directors and better writers to do it. Sorry you didn't like Superman, but I think the general audience loved it. I mean, I am kind of the general audience, though. That's the thing, and I'm glad I didn't bring my daughter to go see it, because, you had Lois Lane saying asshole twice. You had Superman saying shit. You had Mr. Terrific saying, I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific. And then you had Supergirl, which I wanted my daughter to see the cameo of Supergirl, because I'm like, she loves, Gwen Stacy, Ghost Spider. She loves Spider-Man. She loves Iron Man. She loves all these characters. And, and she likes Miss Marvel, and she likes Captain Marvel. And I was like, this is going to be Supergirl. And then she's like stumbling and drunk, and she calls Superman a bitch. Like, I don't want my 6-year-old seeing that, and I know people, but it was rated PG-13. Yeah, but it's a superhero film. And, you got James Gunn saying shit like, you got to watch Peacemaker season 2 because it ties into Superman, and then they got dicks hanging out in the first episode. I can't, like, for me, I don't think the general audience liked it as much as everyone thinks they did. I mean, they sold 60 something million tickets, where Man of Steel sold 82 million tickets. So I don't know. I don't know if that's really a thing. What do we have here? I didn't like the new Superman. I felt it was goofy and cut and pasted and full of plot holes. Yeah, it was totally full of plot holes. Absolutely, Matt. Here's one. Superman gets re-energized. They shoot him up with sunlight, right? And he flies over the snow, right? Got to get back into the fray. Stupid dialogue. Oh my God. He's flying over the snow, and here's the engineer walking through the snow, a black dot walking through the snow. He's got the best vision in the world. And he flies right over her. She looks up at him and sees the S and sees him fly over. He didn't see her, but in all the chaos with the kaiju and all the building parts and destruction and everything that was going on, he could see a fucking squirrel and flies down to grab the squirrel, but he couldn't see the engineer that he flew the fuck over with no other obstructions. Okay. He didn't see the engineer that not only gets access to the Fortress of Solitude, but ruins it and destroys all the Superman robots. Big fucking plot hole. To me, that was just bad writing, like just terrible writing. I just, there was so much, like I could pick apart that entire movie of how bad that film was written. And it's just bad. So yeah. And the goofy stuff, like they made Superman out to be a goofy fuck. Luke, you moved to Orlando, Florida. That's cool. Hey, well, maybe I know, like, I'm going to be taking my daughter and my wife. We're going to be going to Disney, soon. I think January, maybe, or something. Maybe I'll hit you up when I get down there, reach out. Is it just me, or does it feel like the Avatar hype is kind of dying down? I don't know if they still make tons of those movies and nobody really talks about it after that. Yeah. Avatar, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I haven't watched the second one. I saw the first one in IMAX in the theater when it came out, and I never rewatched it again. I can't get into the blue dinosaurs, riding dragons or whatever the fuck. I can't, like, my mind can't, I can't do it. And so, like, and then when I heard The Way of Water was like 3 hours long, I can't sit through a theater anymore at 50 years old. I'm the guy that I could sit through and I can hold my piss, but I'm the type of guy that, like, you give me a tight 2-hour movie, 2-hour, 15-minute movie, I'm gold. What they forget about the run times of these movies is, like, if it's 3 hours, a 3-hour film for Avatar, Way of Water, and then they add 25 minutes of previews on top of that. So that's 3 hours and 25. So, and I'm the guy that I don't like to get up in the middle of a movie, get up in the middle of an important sequence. I don't know if it's an important sequence because I don't know what's coming next. I got to run out, pee, come back, and sit down next to the person I'm with and go, what did I miss? Fuck that. Like, I'd rather wait. I've got Disney Plus, but I've yet to sit down and watch the Blue Na'vi Way of Water on Disney Plus. And it's been on Disney Plus for a while. And I haven't committed the 3-hour block time. I haven't watched the Dune movies because as soon as I hear they're 3 hours long, I'm like, fuck that. Why? You don't have to you want to have a director's cut? Fine. Have a theatrical cut? Fine. You want to make it, 3 1-hour, movies on streaming? Fine. But don't make me sit through 3 hours straight and 30 minutes of previews in the theater. And I love going in the theater. I love seeing things on the big screen. It's the only way I want to watch shit. But the Avatar stuff, what's the next one? Burning Ash, Fire, something. I don't know. I don't care. I haven't seen the second one. It's just one of those things, man. Same with the Dune films. Like Denis, who directed those, dude, Blade Runner 2049 was a complete snooze fest. I love Ryan Gosling. I love Harrison Ford. That movie dragged. And it was all because of the visual stuff. They just held on shots way too long, showing you the landscape, showing you. It's like, dude, get to the story. Like, I don't know. It's just me. Same thing with the Dune, just not into that. Let's see. If that's the case, just don't take your daughter to PG-13 movies because they're allowed to curse. No, I get that. No, and that's my point. Like, I get it. But all through the marketing of this movie, James Gunn, all he said was, this is a kid's movie. We're giving this to the next generation. We got the dog in it, Crypto. It's going to be fun. There's a dog with a cape. And all. They pushed it to kids in the marketing. Remember, David Zaslav, Warner Brothers Discovery, instead of buying a $6 million Super Bowl ad because it wasn't aired on Discovery, they did the chump change thing and did the Puppy Bowl, which is on the Discovery Channel. And James Gunn was there, and he talked about Crypto and that little scene, where he's sitting there with his own dog Ozu and all that kind of stuff. And they made a big push about, going out and going out and adopting dogs and all that kind of stuff. And for me, I was like, okay, they're really pushing the kid thing because that's what they're doing. They're pushing the kids with the toys, the kids with the shirts, the kids with the hats. This is kids. This is a dog. And then when the movie comes out, it was same old James Gunn fart, dick joke shit. And then to have Lex Luthor blow that guy's fucking brains out. Come on. Even though it was in the distance, come on. Like, that's totally uncalled for. They didn't have to kill that guy like that. You know, it could have been off screen where you just heard the gun go off and you saw a shadow or something flump over. But to show the point blank range at the fucking guy's head, boom, boom, does like that. It's just stupid, man. Stupid. It was dumb. It was dumb. Anyway, I digress. I get fired up when I talk about that. Talk about that crap. Let's see, what do we got here? Netflix owning Warner Brothers sounds like a nightmare. The HBO brand would die. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. And again, like, I got friends that work at Netflix. I've worked on Netflix movies. I did. And they would ruin the brand. They would, I mean, why would you want, you know, all the top tier, the Sopranos, all that stuff rolling onto that platform? I don't know. HBO's, but again, like, here's the thing with Zaslav. He was getting 52 million every time he got a bonus every year. Okay, this is because it's all about money and greed with him. And then when the board was like, no, we're 38 billion in debt. And yeah, you've had 7 movies that did well this year, but none of them did that well to get 38 billion out of debt. They wrote off 3 billion in losses last year. They're going to write off about 3 billion this year too, as well. And you're going to take a $52 million bonus. The board said no. The board said, no, you're going to get 6 million. So as soon as that happened, about a month later, you started hearing Zaslav they're going to sell Warner Brothers. And that's what you started hearing, because his golden parachute, when when the executives leave after there's a big merger like that and a company is absorbed, he's going to make tenfold over the 6 million little bonus bullshit they're giving him now. It would be way more than the 52 million per year he's getting. And he just wants the golden parachute at this point. He doesn't care. He never cared. He wanted to merge, cut the fat, and flip the fucking thing like a house, like flipping houses. That's what he wanted to do. Because all he ever did was create reality TV shows anyway, like Flip My House and shit like that on the Discovery Channel. You know, Shark Week, stuff like that. Guy doesn't have a cinematic bone in his body. He doesn't have to make movies. He's not creative. He's a paper pusher. So yeah, HBO brand over on Netflix would be a disaster, I think. It's not James Gunn's job to raise your kid, bro. Bro, I'm 50 years old. Don't talk to me like that. I love you, though. Don't talk to me that. I hate that. I hate that term. Bro, bruh, bro, bro. The first season of Peacemaker was violent and raunchy, too. Yeah, and it sucks. It sucked. It's not that good. I think James Gunn just gets off on watching his wife bang John Cena on screen. I think that's what it is. Yeah, cool. If I'm down in Orlando, we should reach out. Dune is up there with Lord of the Rings. Is it really? All right, maybe I'll give it a shot. The shit drags, dude. The shit drags. You're 50, I'm 37. We both grew up watching movies marketed to kids that had curse words. All right. And we survived. Superhero movies have always been marketed to kids too. Yeah. I don't know, man. Did they curse in the Christopher Reeve movie? Did they curse in the Christopher Reeve film? Did they? I don't know. Even Richard Pryor. I don't think Richard Pryor cursed in Superman 3. There was one curse word in Man of Steel. And I think it was when Lois Lane first landed in the North Pole or some shit where the ice Antarctica was, and she said something to Christopher Maloney's general, whatever character he was, like, she said, "Are we done measuring dicks?" Because and that was the only line in that film. But I've never shown my daughter Man of Steel. Why? Because tonally, it's not made for kids. It's like a darker film. It's a more realistic, grounded film. And so, yeah, I haven't shown my daughter that because I wanted her to see the bright, colorful colors and the dog and all that. But, asshole, shit, you got the title character Superman saying super shit. He didn't even have to say it. They were able to have him say, "Oh, what the hey," towards Crypto. Why couldn't he went like, I hated that hashtag. That could have been the line in the movie. Instead, he was like, super shit. You know, it's like, come on, man. Like, again, nothing would have changed the scenes with Lois Lane when she dropped asshole the two times. Nothing would have changed those scenes. And that's the thing about the writing. Even Mr. Terrific, when they're like, oh, he's going to go to the computer console and type it in and and save the day. Can you do that? He could have just said, yeah, I'm Mr. Terrific. And it would have been just as good as a delivery, other than I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific. It's like, no, like that's bad writing. I'm sorry. I have to disagree. It's just bad writing. Yes, the Dark Knight trilogy was PG-13, and my 6-year-old daughter hasn't watched that either. Don't you get it? Those aren't made for kids. They weren't made for kids. You know, and the toys that they sold, 40-year-old men bought those toys. Sideshow dolls that are $200, stuff like that. You know, when you think I'm gonna, show my kid, when Joker throws that one copycat Batman hanging from his throat onto the building and he slaps on the glass, or what about, the pencil, gonna watch this pencil disappear, and he slams that guy's head and it goes right into his fucking skull. You think I'm showing my kid that? No. Like, no. Why? But a flying dog with bright colors, it's a kid's movie, the Puppy Bowl, the way they marketed the movie, it was bad. It's bad. Matt, James Gunn doesn't fully understand Superman as a character or the Kents. They were reduced to stereotypical hicks, and he sucks at writing believable dialogue. Yeah, absolutely. All the dialogue was spoon-fed. He turned the Kents into rednecks, which I thought was terrible. Nothing stoic said by them. The mother screaming into the cell phone, Clark, like, really? They don't even have redneck, like Southern voices like that. I live in North Carolina. I hear it all the time. Kansas, they're like Midwest. They don't have redneck voices. And that's the problem with James Gunn. And they're like, oh, he kind of grew up around that. No, he didn't. James Gunn came from a wealthy family, and all of himself and his siblings all went to private school. They were never on a farm anywhere close to anything out there to see what it was like. He just went stereotypical. That's what he did. He went stereotypical redneck. It was terrible. He didn't know how to write for Superman. He just didn't. Is there any films or TV shows filming in Wilmington? We had a TV pilot here called RJ Decker that just wrapped, but it got picked up and they're shooting it in Los Angeles. 22 episodes, but they did shoot the pilot here. The Waterfront on Netflix shot here the 8 episodes. It's already aired, and they're not renewing it for season 2. The Runarounds, which is on Amazon Prime right now, it just dropped. That show was shot here in town. And then The Summer I Turned Pretty, I worked on all 3 seasons, and they're coming back to do a 2-hour movie in February. So that's the only thing that's going on right now. And there's another one on Netflix. What's it called? The Hunting Wives. That got picked up for season 2, and they shoot that in Charlotte, North Carolina. So they're coming back for season 2 there. So that's kind of the rundown. There is a horror film that's scouting right now, but no, we haven't heard anything other than that. So yeah, they're still shooting a lot of stuff here, but it's it's been spread out a little bit. So James Gunn did say Man of Tomorrow won't be as comic booky as Superman. Yeah, because I think he realized the complaints. See, that was the thing about James Gunn. He said no script was ever going to go forward. We weren't going to green light anything until the script was finished. But then all he had was a 60-page synopsis for Man of Tomorrow. And they greenlit it and gave it a release date. And you're like, wait a minute, dude, you just said all the scripts have to be perfect. Everything has to be, but I get it. He's writing, he's directing, he's the head of the studio. He could do that, but he lies. He's so inconsistent with the shit he says, which drives me insane because, he talks out of both sides. with everything and I think it's because he's like ADHD. I think he honestly has ADHD and is just all over the place all the time. But yeah, and I don't think it's going to be called A Man of Tomorrow, just like they dropped the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow and they dropped that part of it. And now they're just calling it Supergirl. I think Superman Man of Tomorrow is going to end up just being Superman 2, because, the Superman was supposed to be Superman Legacy, and he dropped the Legacy. Like he just doesn't know what he wants, until it's like, now you got to make a decision because we're about to release the movie. So I think when it comes out, it might just be called Superman 2, or Superman Man of Tomorrow, the full phrase. But I don't think it's going to be called Man of Tomorrow, because again, like, people can't connect Superman to that, even though we all would. The one place where Superman failed across the board was overseas. Every single country overseas, it just failed miserably, and it just did not do well at the box office. And some people could say, well, we're going through all these tariffs, no one likes America right now. I get it. But if it was a good movie, they would have jumped on it. But I just don't think I don't think they liked the movie. I think the word of mouth was that it sucked. So yeah. Thank everybody who's sticking around for this stream. I'm just having fun, man. The last stream I just did, I didn't even announce it, just like this one. I just kind of logged on and just started streaming. I don't really have a script of a bunch of things I want to talk about. It just kind of flows. And, it's been really hard, to find things to talk about, because, every day it just seems like, with the 24-hour news cycle, whether it's the film industry, there's just, everything's just being pounded left and right and left and right. And, by the time I want to talk about something, I can't even keep up. Like, the moment's already passed. So it's like, it's hard to even do it. But I'm hoping that, like, I could get a little bit more consistent and plan these out, maybe, figure out a time frame, to actually, sit down and do it, versus, like, I just looked at my wife and I said, well, I'm just going to go stream, just turn it on, just do it. And I think she's watching Friends. She loves Friends. She watches Friends whenever there's nothing else on TV. Sometimes we'll watch stuff together, but, yeah, so there's just nothing going on right now. And so, I check the trades. I try to see what's going on in the trades. And I'd like to find stuff that's positive. I don't want to rag on stuff, but I'll get easily triggered the minute somebody brings up Superman and starts shitting on it. I start piling on, and I don't want to be that guy. Like, I really don't. I work in the film industry. Every time I'm on a movie set, I'm with 200 crew members. We all have the same goal. Like, none of us, I've been on movies that have, in my mind, been awful, but nobody sets out to make an awful movie or TV show. Like, nobody does. Everybody's got the best intentions. When the set dressers are in there, they're doing their job. Prop builders are building the best props that they can do. All this, like, everybody's doing the best that they can do. And nobody's out there going, we would just want to make a shitty movie. A lot of it just boils down to story and script. And if people, that's just like, I'm now that Alien Earth is done, I didn't want to watch it, over time. I wanted to kind of binge it, watch a couple episodes, maybe 1 or 2 episodes in a row, and just knock it out. And now I'm hearing it's just like, really, it sucks. Like, the last 2 episodes really suck. That's what I'm hearing. And so I'm just like, that's no good. Matt, I personally think that James Gunn's future is uncertain with a forthcoming sale of Warner Bros. Discovery. Man of Tomorrow may never see the light of day, especially with his contract ending. I agree, but at the same time, it really depends on if Paramount and Skydance get it. I think Ellison, Larry Ellison, who owns Oracle, so the wealthiest man on the planet, and his son, David Ellison, that is now in charge of Skydance Paramount, they hate a lot of stuff. And, I don't want to get political, but they're very on the right. So they don't like Um, I don't think they like the orgy stuff. I'm just going to say that right now. Okay. Like in Peacemaker. I don't think they like they probably don't like James Gunn. So James Gunn kind of cranking this stuff through as quick as he can before there is a merger or a sale is because if he can get into production, they're not going to shut him down if he's in production on a project. So to him, he wants to complete his little opus or whatever he's trying to do. But these guys like they don't even like Star Trek. Larry Ellison hates Star Trek. I had said this on my last stream. He doesn't like the idea that like capitalism is gone in the future. Nobody gets paid anything and you do the job that you love because it fulfills you. That's one of the mantras of Star Trek. There's no money. You just walk up to the bar and order a drink. You know, it's the same thing with there's just no currency, right? And that goes against everything that like Larry Ellison, because he's a big capitalist. He hates Star Trek. This guy hates Star Trek. But David Ellison, he talked about bringing back the movies and all that stuff, but I think they're going to shit can a lot of the TV shows. Once they're done running their course, I don't think they're going to do a lot of Star Trek TV shows. They want to get away from that like utopian like future where, you know, they've left the past behind and they're moving forward. And again, I'm not getting political. I'm just saying this is their taste. So for me, they're if we see any more Star Trek films, they're probably going to be more like Star Wars war movies, where they're more conflicts, like against the Borg and stuff like that. Not really like these social, type things where, it's all about inclusivity and because Star Trek is all about inclusivity. It's all about having all these different races and there's no racism and there's all this other. And again, like this is the shit that they don't like DEI. They don't like that stuff. So, and that was one of the things about the merger with Skydance was they had to get rid of all their DEI at Paramount, and they did because they needed to get the merger done with Trump. So I don't see a future for James Gunn because he comes from that trauma background, that tits and ass, those dick jokes that he's crass. And I think that I don't think they're going to mix with that, man. But I think if he can get as much of his slate in as possible, I mean, look, Lucasfilm hasn't gotten rid of Kathleen Kennedy. She's still there. And they had re-upped her contract a while ago and it expires at the end of this year. She's still there. I mean, no one knows if they're going to renew hers or give her a 5-year contract extension or 2-year contract extension or whatever. If they don't find the right CEO to step in, they're not going to take people out of place. James Gunn may be there by default until they find someone better. I don't know. We'll have to see. What is this? Walter Hamada is at Paramount. Do you think he will have any pull to keep James Gunn with Warner Brothers? Walter Hamada was at the beginning and the end for DC. I mean, I don't think Walter Hamada likes James Gunn. Like, I don't think any of those guys that when he came in and took over and kind of pushed everybody out, even the producers of the Batman, like he doesn't like them. And I think it was because like Matt Reeves gave his first draft script to those producers before he gave it to James Gunn, and so, I think that there's room for a lot of, and there's payback too. It could be all about hatcheting shit, Walter Hamada being like, oh, now I'm in charge, over here at Paramount. And, one of the guys here. So we don't need you anymore. We're going to take this over. I don't know. We'll see. That's another reason why I say James Gunn does this thing where he writes, he directs, he produces, and he's the CEO of DC. That's 4 positions he's getting paid for. So if he's getting, $5 million to direct on Superman, I think he got $5 million or $15 million. He got $15 million to direct Superman. He got paid for the screenplay for that. He got paid as a producer for that. He got paid as the head of DC Studios for that. He dipped 4 times, right? And so for me, I think when it comes to James Gunn, right now he's trying to make, that's why he's written every episode of Peacemaker. He's written every episode of Peacemaker season 2. He went ahead and started writing Superman 2. He is like trying to quadruple dip on every project. It's not like they go, oh, you're the CEO, you're going to get a flat salary. No, that's not how it works, because you got the Directors Guild, you got the Writers Guild. They all have their separate contracts, their separate deals, you know? And he's all about, he's a quad man. He wants 4 positions paid for. And that's why I think he's doing all the stuff he's doing, is to make as much money as possible, because I think he may know his career is finite. Let's see, what do we have here? I have a quick prediction. You heard it here first. When Savage Hulk returns in Spider-Man, Brand New Day, expect all the YouTubers to say, Sony save the Hulk. Save the Hulk all at once. What do you mean, like save the Hulk? Like brought him back from like the intelligent Professor Hulk? You get elaborate a little bit more than that, CJ, because I'm trying to figure out what you mean. Sony saved the Hulk. Oh, because they're saying like MCU didn't, because MCU punked him out and made him do yoga and She-Hulk and all that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. So yeah, they might say Sony saved the Hulk. Sure, why not? I think it was always going to come back to a Savage type Hulk, because if they ever do that Hulk movie, what's the name of the one based on the comic book, that one run where he's on another planet Hulk or whatever the fuck. Like if they ever go down that road, they have to he can't be Professor Hulk and do that. So at some point, yeah. The question is, how do they get him to rage out again? There's got to be something. I think there's like this one character they've brought in that's going to be in Spider-Man, A Brand New Day, that figures out how to split the personalities and then and suppress Bruce Banner in some capacity, to where he can't do the morphing again. I don't know. I'm happy if that's the case, because I miss that Hulk. I mean, we all miss the Smash Hulk. Come on, some of the best lines. Planet Hulk. That's right. Hulk versus Wolverine. Yeah. Because we had a little taste of that from Deadpool Wolverine, where they even like grabbed that whole comic book cover with the blade reflection and the Hulk and the blade reflection. Yeah, dude, it was great that they did that. I could see it going in that direction. I think it'd be great. My only thing is the cast. Like if they do a tight 2-hour, 15-minute Spider-Man movie, and you got the Punisher in it, and you got the Hulk, and then there's 2 bad guys already they've added to the cast. I'm getting nervous, because if you put too many characters in the movie and then it ends up being like Superman, where you can't devote enough story to introduce these characters and to get a really good, and then you still got the whole MJ thing in there, and then you've got this other actress that's stepping in that could be the other Mary Jane. I don't know, like too many characters, it just muddies everything, and you can't devote enough time to develop the characters within the film. So however they do it, they got to do it right. The potential of a Hulk TV show in modern times would be amazing. He's such a deep character that the movies gloss over. Yes, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Can they do a show like, the Brian Bigsby show that I grew up with, that was filmed in the 70s with Lou Ferrigno? Can they do that? I watched it in reruns because I was like 5 years old in like 1980, but I remember growing up watching the Hulk in reruns. Can you do a movie of, or you'd have to do a limited series, 8 episodes, something like that. You couldn't do a 22 episode thing unless you were going to paint somebody green, a bodybuilder, to do that kind of interpretation. So obviously we're not going to do that, because they were able to put the Hulk and She-Hulk, but yeah, hold on. Because they're scared the audience will react the same way they did with Ang Lee Hulk. You make a show too smart for dumb people and they get mad. True. I mean, I agree with that 100%, but you have to, without making the audience do homework. Like nobody should have to read fucking 5 different runs of comic books ahead of time to watch something. You should be able to explain everything without spoon feeding dialogue and let stuff breathe and tell complete stories within, you know, is that Hulk series, if they did it, would it be a movie of the week type thing where one episode is one contained story where he saves one person that's on the run, or fights one sheriff in one small town, like the Lou Ferrigno Hulk did, because Bill Bixby was always hitchhiking on the road and he would stumble into these storylines. Like, do you do it like that? Do you serialize it, or do you do an 8-episode arc of something? You know, I don't know. It's you know, but again, like we've dumbed down the audience so much the way, and this goes with Netflix movies. They're written a specific way to appeal to wide audiences from different cultures. So they make a lot of exposition inserted into the actual scripts, so that in the dialogue you're just explaining and explaining and explaining as you go, so that it doesn't trip people up in other countries. And that's the God honest truth. That's what they do. And that's what James Gunn did with the Superman thing. He just spoon fed everything. Like I remember that. I hate to digress, but the one scene where where Lex Luthor walks into the hall, the Fortress of Solitude, walks up to the computer console, and he goes like this. He looks at it and he goes, well, let's see if we can find something that we can use against Superman to get these generals on our side. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, duh. Like if he just walked up, looked at the console and gave a little smile, the audience would have been like, oh, he's gonna see this, the message. He's gonna say, like, but spelling out the information is so childlike. That was my problem with that stuff. Peacemaker was a DC purchase from Charlton Comics, and the current iteration of Vigilante is a sparky, wisecracking D-bag. James Gunn completely bastardized these two characters. I was out after season 1. Yeah, I thought the show sucked. And I did hear that, like, when I and then one of the reasons why I didn't like the show is I heard John Cena like started like doing a deep dive and was like going to get all the comic books and start reading all about Peacemaker. And James Gunn stopped him and said, stop. We're not doing that. Don't waste your time. Just do what I give you. And that's, again, like you always hear this thing about comic book accurate. Everything's got to be comic book accurate, you know? And he swears by being comic book accurate, but he bastardizes everything. Like, it's not comic book accurate, you know? So it's frustrating when, again, that's him talking out of both sides of his mouth. Got to be comic book accurate, you know, but then I'm going to change everything. It's like, dude, just shut the fuck up. Del Toro almost had a Hulk show in 2012. That would have been good, but 2012, I don't know if the technology would have been there for it to look good. I mean, I guess we were already doing Avengers type stuff and the Ang Lee movie and all that, but I don't know. And you don't even use Edward or Mark. You make it a prequel about him on the run. The way you can recast easy. Oh, well, that's like a young Bruce Banner in his 20s that just did the experiment and got the gamma radiation before he became Mark Ruffalo, like that kind of. And you use the daughter, but then you got to recast, you know, General and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I don't know. I guess you could. Like, yeah, I think we went from Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo pretty seamlessly. I don't think people batted an eye. So, I mean, you can recast people, you know, people just got to get used to it. Looking forward to whoever they bring new in as Black Panther. You know, they've got to get somebody really good to do that. Part of me wants a 4th Dark Knight movie, but the trilogy is great. Dude, I would love a 4th one. I would love a 4th one, and I would love to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt as the new Batman, and I would love to see Christian Bale come back as Bruce Wayne, as the Batman Beyond type shit, because it was teed up for that. Like, no one believed at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Like, yeah, there was that one little line where she was like, I like your real name, Robin. and he was like, okay, so he's Robin. But there was no Robin suit, there was no Darkwing suit, there was none of that stuff. I mean, they were just basically saying, hey, look, this guy is going to be the new Batman because he gets to the Batcave, the music plays, it rises up, the waterfall, all that kind of stuff. And they really teed that shit up to be perfect. They really did. Bruce Wayne's off in Italy, but look, you got what's his name is retiring from he's got one more movie left. Michael Caine has one more movie left, and he's officially retiring from the film industry. He's 93 years old. It's not like you could bring him back. You'd have to figure out how to make it work. But if Christopher Nolan had the idea, and he said to him, because Christian Bale said he would come back only if Nolan had an idea and cracked the nut. And I think Warner Brothers would, in a heartbeat, over Matt Reeves, because you look at the box office of his movies, and in a heartbeat, I think he would be like, yeah, Matt, sorry, we're going to do an Elseworlds. We're doing a fourth Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, that'd be great. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think we're stuck with what we're doing. I think they're just going to keep repackaging Batman. I mean, you keep hearing now, possibly Jake Gyllenhaal has been privately in talks to take on Batman for the DCU. But if you look at how dark Jake Gyllenhaal is, now he does do comedy well too. He's got a very good sense of humor, so he can be light. But if you look at some of these really dark, sadistic films he's done in his lifetime, and you look at how ripped he got for Roadhouse and how he's always in prime shape, he could definitely, and he's been chomping at the bit to play Batman. I think he even read for it at one point. I don't know if it was Christopher Nolan, but I think he might have read for it for Zack Snyder, and Ben Affleck wasn't the first choice. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong, but I think I remember hearing a rumor about that. But if Jake Gyllenhaal ends up being the guy, that'd be fantastic. I like the guy from 1923, the Yellowstone. I can't remember that guy's name, but I saw there's pictures of him working out now. He's getting all ripped. He said, I'm getting ripped for the role of a lifetime. And, he's really pushing to be Batman. But Jake Gyllenhaal wants to be Batman. So who's the bigger star? Is it Jake Gyllenhaal, or is it, is it this other guy? I don't know. We'll have to see. But, anyway, it's been an hour and 30 minutes. I'm going to bounce off. Oh, I heard it was Scorpion Hobgoblin in the new Spider-Man villains. I don't know. I hope they don't bring back, they don't do Hobgoblin or anything. There's so many characters they don't need to retread on. I guess Green Goblin's different than Hobgoblin, but I want to see different people that they haven't really done yet. But Hobgoblin, yeah, Scorpion, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Let's see. I still think, judging by what we know from Peacemaker, I'm kind of convinced Ben is coming back. If Suicide Squad is canon, Ben appears in that. No, I don't think so. Ben Affleck already said he wouldn't do shit. He wouldn't do shit with James Gunn. And I absolutely believe that. I think he saw what James Gunn was going to do with Batman. And if anything, I would have rather had seen his Batman versus Deathstroke film, because the script apparently was a fucking banger, and I would have much rather seen that movie than anything else. And it doesn't have to be Snyderverse stuff. It could be a standalone Batman film, I guess, kind of in that universe adjacent. If you wanted to, you didn't have to recognize any of the stuff from the DCEU. You could have just had that fucking Batman, that burly ass, badass, warehouse, just brutal Batman fighting Deathstroke. Dude, and I mean, we've seen some of the artwork for the costume they had for that movie. We've seen animatics and storyboards they had for that movie from some of the fight scenes, and that movie was going to be lit. It just sucks he was going through his demons and couldn't pull it together. But I don't think he's coming back for James Gunn. I don't think he likes James Gunn. I don't think he likes him. When James Gunn even said that he was hoping that Ben Affleck would direct something for James Gunn. The quote was brutal coming from Ben Affleck about what he said. I'll look it up real quick before I bounce. Hold on, let's see. What is Ben Affleck? Directing for James Gunn. Let's see. What did he say? I mean, it was as simple as this. Ben Affleck definitively stated he would not direct for James Gunn's new DCU, explaining that while he has nothing against James Gunn, bullshit, and believes he will do a great job, it's simply not his thing. And he isn't interested in directing in the way that the new DC universe is being made. This was in March 2023 in an interview with the Hollywood Reporter. Not his thing, not interested in the way it's being directed. Now, that is right from Ben Affleck's mouth. He is not changing that point of view whatsoever. And I agree 100% that Ben Affleck should stay the hell away from this crap. You know, it's because it's crap. That's what I think. And I know a lot of people love this new version of Superman. And I like David Cornsweet. I think he could be good if he was given a good script. That's the thing. I think Rachel Brosnahan could have been good if she was given a good script. I mean, the fuck, she gets in Mr. Terrific's ship and flies it, 15,000 feet in the air through buildings and all this, and so what if, and again, like they explain it by poor shitty writing where, Mr. Terrific has to say, the ship is very intuitive. Oh, meaning she'll just sit in there and start fucking with it and it'll work? like it's just, again, it's such a fucking bad script. Like I'm shocked that people don't see how bad that movie is, how bad that writing is. Fucking horrible. Then how does one recast Batman yet again for the general audience? The fans will eat it up, but can a general audience I think no matter who you recast as Batman, the general audience loves Batman. They'll fucking show up for any Batman. They just will, they just will. So I don't think that's the case. My idea, let's see, what do we got here? My idea would be figured out that Batman TV rights make a straight up Batman TV show. It's fucking beating a dead horse. I think it'd be great, but it's just beating a dead horse. I wouldn't want a Batman TV show. I don't want TV shows. I want epic fucking movies. Not epic as in like Zack Snyder's Justice League epic. I just want a fucking solid movie. Like do a Ben Affleck Batman film like a Christopher Nolan movie. Make it grounded in reality. Real streets, real roads, like real everything. Not shooting fucking aliens from space and demigods and demons and shit. Like, so many villains that would never go into the movies though. No, I know. There was no chemistry between Cornsweet and Brosnahan. You know where the chemistry was between them two? During the press junket, in the behind the scenes outtakes, and every time she was making out with him in between takes. There was your chemistry. But somehow it didn't translate on screen. Interesting. I don't know, because the director sucked. Sorry. I tell you what, when I saw David Cornsweet's audition for Superman, that shit was better than anything he did in the movie. His Clark Kent in that was perfect. They should have went with that. But James Gunn didn't. James Gunn flipped that shit and made him something totally different. And he came across as a fish out of water. That's exactly what he was, a fish out of water. So, yeah, I don't know, man. The chemistry between, but there are other people that fell all over it. Oh my God, it was the best. They're the best Clark and Lois Lane ever. They're the best. And I was just like, what are you seeing, people? And I think it's just the fact that the writing for the last 30 years in Hollywood has just been so dumbed down that it just sucks. And people have just absorbed that. And people like me that have been around watching movies in the 70s and the 80s, and the 90s, but these kids that were born in the 2000s and the late 90s, They fucking eat this garbage up, and it's bad writing. Okay, well, I think the Superman movie was James Gunn saying he hated Man of Steel because it isn't Man of Tomorrow, the original plan of Man of Steel 2. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was that. I think James Gunn's just fucking limited. He's limited in his writing. He's limited and to just fart jokes and shit jokes and dick jokes, and he's just limited. The guy's just he's not cerebral. He can't do a standalone movie with like a Batman. He couldn't write what Matt Reeves. He can't write like Matt Reeves. He can't. He can do ensemble jokey shitty stuff. And that's just it. So, all right, guys, I am going to bounce. It's been an hour and 40 minutes, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please like and subscribe and share. I'd love to hit 10,000 subs by the end of the year. If anybody wants to share my channel and be like, dude, help this guy out. If I could hit 10,000, that's usually when shit starts to snowball. So if you want to help me out, give me a like, give me a share, and all that good stuff. And we'll see you guys soon. Okay? Take care. Appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.